Good evening and welcome to GT3 Season 2, Round 5, live and exclusive on iRacing UK Twitch channel. Brought to you via iRacing, the world's premier motorsport simulation. Who are iRacing UK? Well, we are a community of inclusive and enthusiastic racers from across the UK who like to run social races, practice sessions, leagues, but most importantly, share our experiences and our passion for sim racing. I'm Tim Cox, and joining me tonight once again is the delightful Nicholas Allen. It's the penultimate round of the GT3 season, and we've headed from the darkness of Spa 2 weeks ago, and this week is the polar opposite as we head to the sunny southern hemisphere, and in particular, the sunny city of Sao Paulo, to a track that is loved by drivers and fans alike. It is, of course, the absolutely epic Interlagos. As always, we'll be taking your questions throughout the broadcast, so feel free to drop your messages into the chat. We love to hear from everyone watching, so post in the chat now who you think you're going to be cheering on tonight. And of course, just looking back on sort of previous rounds, Nick, and such like, it's really close at the top of the championship tonight in pro categories. We head into this penultimate round with Aidan Shadbolt and James Armstrong equal on points at the top of the pro category. Who's your favourite to take the championship?
Hello, Tim. And yeah, you just mentioned it's the penultimate round. I'm almost a little bit emotional after this journey that we've been on together for the last however many weeks. You know, almost 10 weeks or so of watching these guys go around these tracks. It's been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, even to all of our viewers on Twitch. So as you mentioned, neck and neck at the top of the table at the moment. So that's going to intensify the competition here tonight at Interlagos. So having spoken to James in the past, personally, my money's on him, but having spoken to him in the past in interviews, I know that he likes to try and get a really solid start and charge away from Aiden. So my money really is on whichever one of these guys gets the better start, because I think Aiden tends to be a bit quicker in the corners sometimes with that Audi, as long as he doesn't turn it round. You know, the Audi is known for occasionally being a little bit unstable sometimes, but I know that Lamborghini of James Armstrong is always good in a straight line, and he tends to find that he has his advantage charging away from his competitors as soon as he starts the lap. So I think definitely James is the one that I'm looking out for at the top of the minute, just based on performances that we've seen recently. As for the pro-ams, though, Tim, Dom the Dominator Roberts,
Wow.
I think he's heading up the top of the league at the moment, isn't he? So
Yes.
I think it would be a bit of a shock if we didn't see him bringing home a haul of points this evening. It's not really uncommon for us to see Dom mixing it in the low end of the pro drivers. And speaking of pro drivers, another one of my favourites throughout the season, I've been quite vocal about, is Charlie Bebb. I've not been shy about mentioning it because he's had some great races on occasion, where he's managed to slip through the pack where there's perhaps been errors at the front, and it's landed him quite a few points in the early portion of the season. He's had a nice, clean set of laps where others got themselves into trouble. But couldn't say the same about Spa, though, as we saw him getting a little bit mixed up with people that were fighting around him, which unfortunately kind of ended up with him slipping back down the pack until eventually I think Bradley Holtz decided to trade a bit of paint with him and leave a few marks at the inside of Charlie's car on La Source. So hopefully we won't have any of that this evening here in Brazil. But yes, Tim, looking forward to seeing what these guys have got.
So I can see from the chat, Chris Hitchin's already in there, supporting his brother Jonathan. He's just mentioned Johnny, the German smasher Hitchin. We'll come on to the UK versus German race that happened on Friday night, the Clash of the Communities, and we'll pick that one up a bit later because a few of the drivers who we're seeing tonight featured in that race and some great performances. Like I say, we'll pick that up later in the show. And Nick, so like two rounds ago at Monza, the lap starts out with the chicane. However, obviously before that, the optimum racing line cuts across the pit entry, which could cause some potential issues. I know there's a couple of drivers that came close in the Am and rookie class that we saw 1 week ago here on iRacing UK. And where else do you think we're going to see potential action happen on track tonight?
Well, you know, the problem with that pit entry is that they cut it so much that it's a bit of a trick for the commentators, really, isn't it? Because we sit here and we're not sure if they're diving in the pits or if they're just being cheeky with the amount of road they're using. So we've got straights here, especially the big long one that leads up to turn 1, which is obviously the centre S's. So I think we're going to see a bit of action in there, people trying to get side to side, especially in the early portions of the race, banging a few doors, vying for track position, because that will be quite important early on as they start to kind of line up after the rolling start. Now, before just after they come down the S's, they're going to want to be you know, in a strong position possibly to try and make take as much chance of the slipstream as they head down the Retta Apposta, which will present another opportunity potentially for a little bit of a dive into that set of corners at Interlagos. Further round the lap, it gets a bit more technical though, with a series of left and right handers, none of which are really similar angles, just kind of going from being quite open to the hairpin of Bico de Pato. So it's going to be quite interesting to see who can keep up the pace through that second part of the lap. And we're actually on a lap now with Aiden. Here he goes into Interlagos here. Making a lot of use of the runoff area there on the right-hand side, keeping it nice and tight on the left in the entry here, then going up the hill as he charges up towards that technical section that we were just mentioning, the first bit here, turn 7 and 8, just coming out of Ferradura there, and then it gets a bit tighter here into 8, as then we're going to go into the left-hander here of Pininheiro, and then up the hill through into turns 10 and then 11, which is going to be the hairpin right turn of Bico de Pato that we were just talking about a moment ago. Only a couple of turns left now. Here is the penultimate one before we get to Juncao, where again we're going to be wanting to make as much use of the runoff area here as possible at Juncao, and then that leads us for the long run now up this straight, well, kind of curved, and then into the final straight, obviously, before we head back down into the centre S's. So nice tidy lap there. We're just following Aiden Shadbart around during this warm-up, which has got 8.5 minutes left to go.
So Nick, there's currently a poll up in the chat. Dom Roberts, he was the fastest in qualification earlier out of all of the drivers, and the poll's saying Dom Roberts was the fastest in qualifier. Will he win? Now it's currently 71% of the vote says yes. Well, that's just dropped to 63. What's your thoughts? We've seen some absolutely brilliant drives from Dom Roberts, and he's almost been a little bit overpowered in the Pro-Am category in some ways. I think he could have easily been in Pro, and should he have qualified in there, and really been mixing up the fronts with the likes of Alberto Gravely and Hitchin and Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean, he's ended up in a position where we calculated these leagues and where people stood based on where they qualified. Dom Roberts has come in and just outperformed what he did obviously in the qualifying. So next season he'll be ready to mix it with the big boys, and he'll be in that upper class. Bear in mind that some of these guys, a lot of people are very new to sim racing. Some people, a lot of the time we talk to people on the interviews and say, how do you prepare for the leagues? How do you prepare for the race? And they go, oh well, I don't really have a routine. I'm quite new to sim racing, and it's so it's often quite refreshing to hear from these guys that they're not seasoned pros that have spent thousands of pounds on rigs necessarily, that have been racing for their whole lives. They're new enthusiasts who love motorsport, and they've discovered sim racing in the modern world. That's obviously with lockdowns and things where people haven't necessarily been able to go out and do very much. So it's really good to see a lot of these drivers, and they've really made the league for us over the last sort of 10 weeks.
So yeah, you sort of touched on abilities and setups. So it's just worth mentioning,
Well, I'm not sure what Tim was going to mention, but we'll go.
Are you all right now?
In a minute. Oh, there he is.
Oh, yeah,
Where did you go, Tim?
I don't know. It just suddenly dropped off a cliff there. Suddenly, my audio, but not sure what that was about. It's like a technical glitch. Yeah, you were just saying that. Obviously, some of the drivers, they don't have top-end setups, and some of the guys run on, like Logitech G29s, and even lower, and are still able to compete at the front end, and it just shows the diversity across the across the whole group. Not everyone is running direct drives with Huskenval pedals that cost the absolute earth. There's a real mix of abilities and different equipment levels. So James,
Very true.
just mentioning James Armstrong there, second fastest, and he's talking in the chat there. So good to see James concentrating nice and hard on the racing. He's still yet out banging a great lap as Dom Roberts just going quickest there. Not long left in the poll. Dom currently 67% of the vote saying that he's got a chance of winning tonight. And yeah, just pick up on a couple of bits within the chat. Shadows22, Shirasiki, and Alba Spirit, all thank you for the follows. Really appreciate that one, which leads into a nice, seamless, shameless segue into talking about Twitch Prime. Now, with Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch subscription. Our broadcast and community is run by volunteers who not only put a lot of time, but also their own money to keep the community free. We'd be really appreciative if you could use your free subscription to subscribe to our channel and help keep bringing more of this great quality content and ensure it is kept for free. Now, just to catch up on a couple of bits within the community, obviously we have the Community League, which runs every Saturday night. And that allows the winners and the runners-up within those races, which is a complete mixture. It's a different series and cars each week. I think next week it's due to be Radicals at Spa, I think it is. I know that'll prick up your ears, Nick. I know you love the Radicals.
I think the Radicals is week 11 at Suzuka from memory, but yeah,
yes,
it's coming
Suzuka,
up soon.
Isn't it? I got the S right, so I got part of it right, and the
nearly
N
there
as well. So I got 2 out of the 3 letters right. Just having a look. Yeah, obviously, Porsche Cup Challenge, that starts on the 6th of June. Also worth mentioning, Season 3 of the GT3 League, sign-ups for that close on the 6th of June. Now, if you're interested in either joining either of those leagues or the community in general, then head across to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/iRacingUK, or alternatively, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter by searching for team_IRUK. Now, obviously, Nick, last week in the AM Rookie race, obviously we were here at Interlagos, and there was an absolutely epic battle for second overall, and obviously in class within the AM category, which was between Chris Hitchin, Lowerton, and Green. And it was absolutely, it was like a tense game of poker with the drivers wanted to blink first, as it were. Now, Hitchin was first to take his pit stop, followed by Lowerton a lap later, and then Green a lap later than that. We saw all 3 drivers come together down at Tessida del Lago, and unfortunately, that then they ended up losing out. But what it did allow was Rob Armstrong and his Mercedes to come through and take 2nd place overall. Now, Pro and Pro-Am drivers, we know that they like to get their elbows out a bit more compared to the AM and rookie drivers. However, do you still think that pit stops could play a large part in tactics and thus the race result tonight?
Hard to say. I mean, in the last race, we saw people diving in anywhere in the kind of, I think, between 25 and 30 minutes into the race, that kind of marker. Hitchin, obviously, he said he looked to pull that kind of undercut maneuver on Lowerson. He wasn't really having much luck catching up to him, lap by lap, on pure pace. So he dived in after having been chasing for quite a while. As soon as he peeled him, we saw a few others from the midfield also sort of come in. Unfortunately for Chris, he came out in traffic, and that really harmed his chances on the undercut. And Lowerson was actually able to dive in the lap after, and then that was quite a favourable manoeuvre really, because he came out ahead of Carrick Stonehouse, who was holding up Chris Hitchin. So going early doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the undercut's going to work out for you. You've got to plan it and look at where the traffic's going to be, and if you've got a spotter on here, that's really going to help you out. That's going to be someone to look out for where that optimal gap's going to be. However, I mean, the strong pit stop was Dave obviously had a strong one. He dived in. He came out ahead, as we just said there, but unfortunately, it was kind of a double-edged sword, wasn't it? Because then we had contact obviously down into Interlagos with green, which was a bit of a shame. So we should also remember that the spot where Dave and Lee came together there at the end of that after the pit stops was also the same place where Murray Luca lost control, and in his attempts to get the car kind of back under control, Josh Wilson followed the usual line, I think expecting Murray possibly to roll off the track because he had kind of turned the car around. What they actually ended up doing was clipping bumpers in exactly the same spot as where Hitchin hit Lauerson after his incident. So yeah, Interlagos, we called it a graveyard in the last race. Let's hope that it's not this evening.
So, Jack the Hunter 18, thank you for your follow. Really appreciate that one. And also, Shirashiki, thank you for subscribing with Prime there, my friends. That's really, really appreciated. Obviously, you don't have to just use Prime. You can also, there's different, obviously, subscription options on there. And like I say, again, we really, really appreciate them. It helps to keep the community free and enjoyable for all and bring more of these great broadcasts. And just worth a mention, the camera angles as warm-up just comes to end, brought to us courtesy of the guys over at trackcams22.com. And yeah, provides absolutely great angles. And we've got the grid there. Nick, do you want to take us through?
Absolutely. So we've got Jonathan Hitchin and Nick Print on the front row there with first and second. Then following them, we've got Charlie Bebb and Aidan Shadbolt on the second row. Tim Darracott and James Armstrong make up P5 and 6. And then Alberto Gravely rounds out the pro drivers. Following on from that, we've got Daryl Norkett in P1 for the Pro-Ams, followed by Stuart Bickley. He's on the front row with Daryl, Dom Roberts and Damien G on the second row, making it third and fourth. Then we've got Chris Edisford, Gary Bacon, Steve Masters, and Cy Bell in 8th position.
Lovely. So not long now as the drivers will start to take to the grid and won't be far off. The lights going green and round 5 of GT3 Season 2 at Interlagos commencing. You can see the drivers just forming up behind the safety car there as we build the anticipation builds. And yeah, as mentioned in the chat by Racer Dan, we alluded to it earlier. Obviously, James Armstrong is currently in 4th, and Aidan Shadbolt a little bit further down in 7th, and they're currently tied on points at the moment at the top of the league. So, two very quick drivers. We saw them both feature within the Clash of the Communities, which we'll hopefully we'll cover a little bit later on, and against the German guys. An absolutely brilliant performance put in by all the drivers who got involved in that. I see 306 Rally, which is David Lauerson, who we saw obviously in that great battle we've mentioned earlier in the broadcast, asking me to sing like their lead commentator, Sergio. To be fair, I don't want to scare away the viewers, but mate, it's don't want to put that upon anyone whatsoever. As the drivers just come around down to Young Cow now, we've got obviously Greeley out in his BMW at the front, and he's going to it'll be on the inside line as they come up to the center S's when we go green, and he'll be looking to get the jump on Jonathan Hitchin, who in his Ferrari there, that green and yellow Ferrari, and we know Jonathan's he's a tough racer. We saw that, we've seen it all season long. We saw it again on Friday night in the Clash of Communities event, but with Armstrong, this could go absolutely any way down into the center S's, and Gravely just backing off a little bit, trying to give himself a little bit of room behind the safety car as we wait for that to peel in, and there he goes. And we get ready. Gravely comes, he takes control of it, and then 1, 2, GT3, round 5 is go. And a great start by Gravely there, but we're going to go potentially 3 wide, but no, it's Hitchin. He's going to take, he's got on the outside, he's got Armstrong in his Lamborghini up the inside, but now he's going to be on the outside as they head out of the center S's, but no, he's managed to get them moved up there and bring himself up into 2nd place, and Charlie Bebb's BMW all over the back of Jonathan Hitchin's Ferrari there, as the guys that head down Rita Aposta and head down to the Cida del Lago, and Alberto Gravely already a 2nd clear as we watch that's Jonathan Hitchin just run a little bit wide there. But to look at Dom Roberts already up to 6th place overall and all over the back of Nick Prince, black BMW there, and that Ferrari of Roberts really tucked up close behind him. He's got Shabot for company in his black Audi behind him, and there's literally, he's boxed in the sandwich. Obviously Don Roberts within Pro-Am, so this is not for position in class. Darren Hawkins, the 2nd place in class, and down in 8th place, a couple of places behind him, but Don Roberts not leaving anything on the table here. As looks like he's gonna see got light of the pole and gonna be looking to really push on and maybe finish on the podium overall rather than just in class. But Charlie Bev, you mentioned him earlier there, Nick, and he's trying to run it around the side of Print, but Roberts is slightly boxed in here. He's tucked up behind the gearbox of Nick Print as they tuck it really close to the pit exit entry there. And let's see how they get on as they come down into the center S's. Roberts, he's got all the work to do. He's going to run wide, but it will put him on the inside. But Prince managed to gain track position there. But now Roberts is going to have the slipstream advantage. But him, just ahead of him, look at Armstrong. He's got Hitchin all over the back of him. Armstrong's gone defensive early there, Nick. And Roberts, Hitchin's going to have the work to do, but as he tries to run it round the outside there, looks like he's going to pick up a tactical off track there, but nothing that won't phase him. He's got plenty of those to burn up, and he's all over the back of James Armstrong's Lamborghini as he looks to send it up the inside here as they round turn 7. He's still on the inside, but Armstrong slightly ahead here. But Hitchin just fighting back every step of the way. These two going side by side round the track. It's like they're trying to get on Noah's Ark because they go 2 by 2 round most of the lap, and Hitchens managed to get the move done there. Wow, Nick, what a great opening couple of laps nearly.
This has been incredible. There's some absolutely fantastic racing between those guys there, side by side through the entire technical section of the track near enough, and that's now going to give Nick Print a chance to have a little look. But let's not forget that Don Roberts is there, and he's been biding his time. Last time we saw him coming down the straight here, he was pretty close to the back of Nick Print, and Nick Print's not going to be happy about that. Neither is Aiden Shadbot behind, thinking, you know, this guy's from another class and he's getting in the middle of our race. We want him out of the way. Charlie Bev obviously just fell foul to that a minute ago after being in P4 and looking quite strong. He's dropped back a little bit now, the gap opening up to Dom Roberts ahead of him, and look at how close Dom is to the back. He's just glued to Nick. He just doesn't want to give it up. He's absolutely hungry for places. He knows he can win this, and he's had to start from the middle of the pack because of the class difference. And here we go now into the Interlagos. They're all line of stern at the moment. That nice black BMW livery there on the Nick Print, just as we follow him on the trackcams22.com angles that we have here this evening. James Armstrong losing out. Was that a surprise for you, Tim?
Yes and no. Oh, we've got a spinner then. That's one of the Ferraris, and all that just...
Stuart Bickley.
That was Stuart Bickley, wasn't it? And he's just managed to escape everyone. Let's have a look. I think that's coming up into Faruda T6. Let's see what's
under pressure, and then he just caught the grass on the inside. Oh, he was so incredibly close not to hit anybody there.
Let's put him right down at the back. And meanwhile, while all that action was happening further down the field, this second, third, fourth, and fifth position battle ensues, and there's hardly anything to separate. We've got Hitchin in his Ferrari in second, Armstrong's Lamborghini in third, Prince BMW in fourth, and then Roberts Ferrari tucked at the back of them, just biding his time and sitting behind them. And we mentioned it earlier, these guys like it, they're feisty racers. Always Prince, that's it, Prince just helped Armstrong on the entrance, the center S is there, and that has gifted Roberts another place up the standings, and Armstrong's fallen all the way down to 9th place there. And just let's get a replay here. So we're on board at the rear of Armstrong. There's Print just behind as they head into the center S's now, and Print's gone for the inside where Armstrong left it open, and Armstrong's then gone to close the door, but found there's no room. You know, there's literally left Print with no room, and bit of a racing incident, I call that as, Nick.
Yeah, I think when you look at that, you've got Nick Print under extreme pressure from Don Roberts behind. He's trying to leave the braking as late as possible to be on the defence, and then he's also trying to look for a way to get around James at the same time. And to be honest, it just looks like yeah, a racing incident. Nick under a lot of pressure. We're actually going to go over to a replay though of I believe Dom Roberts getting past Nick Print now.
Okay, let's have a look.
Into Interlagos here, is this?
Yeah, it is, yeah, and that's a nice textbook move up the inside there for Roberts, which takes him to 3rd overall. He's got John Hitchin ahead of him. He's around about 1.7 seconds up the road, I think it is, as we watch Armstrong now, who's on a recovery drive. This doesn't affect the championship too much. He's got Chabot, who's currently in 6th place overall, and I think what is that? 5th in class, so it's not going to affect the championship overall, but Armstrong definitely the man with work to do as he goes inside, and Darracott gone really defensive there. Oh, and he slots it inside. Well, that's they sort of all 3 cars there dovetail together between Norkit, Darracott, Armstrong and Darracott. But here comes Darracott again. He's not giving up that position. He's attached to the back of him as Armstrong's on the lights here as he looks to get past Norkit there, but here comes Darracott. He wants a piece of that action. Armstrong's run wide, but he's utilised the extra speed, and he's managed to get the move done on.
Is that the Armstrong line around here? Is it?
I think it must be, but that's going to surely invoke a protest after the race. Well, obviously, not making any difference, obviously, in class, obviously, with what you know, because Tim Darracott runs in the pros, doesn't he, as well? So I think he's going to have something to say about that one, and we could see a protest after the race.
The thing is, James is pushing just too hard. He's absolutely desperate to get back up the order.
Oh, no, Darracott, no, we've got contact everywhere here. Darracott hit the rear end of, I think that was Norkit, and then Saibal just getting collected up, but managed to get away with that one. And likewise with Darracott as well. They've managed to come through okay. Right aboard with Darracott now as he's gone up the inside, and Darrell just closed the door there, but Darracott already alongside, and
he left a bit of a gap, didn't he? Really, and Darracott just thought, I'll have a go at that. It was a bit, it was very deep, but then that Ferrari ahead also picking up a bit of damage, and I think it could be showing here because look at how close Darracott's getting it to the back of him now.
So last time around, 5 laps gone in the race so far. Dom Roberts set the fastest lap time and also the fastest lap of the race so far at 1:31.2. Norkit had to take to the pits. Obviously, clearly too much damage to carry on. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a bit too early for him to be able to fuel to the end of the race there, Nick, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah. We didn't see the pit stops happening until, like I said, about 25 to 30 minutes into the race last time, so I'd be surprised to see one happen, you know, for another 16 minutes possibly. Yeah.
I think the last of the pit stops from memory were about with 15 minutes to go. So the 45-minute race, there's only 9 minutes gone so far. I think Norkit will have to stop again, and it's such a shame for Darrell Norkit. He's taking him down to the back of the grid, and around about 36 seconds behind Stuart Bickley, who's ahead of him on the road. Obviously, he will close up during the round of pit stops as the pit windows opens for the rest of the drivers. But however, let's look at Armstrong. He's
what's happened to Dom Roberts?
Seconds. He's dropped down. I'm not sure what's happened there. Let's take a look. Oh, he's caught the grass. No. It's just on the extra junk out there, isn't it?
And this is the thing we saw before in some of the previous races. Dom would have these little moments and then have to drag himself back up the field with a kind of second heroic charge. So I think Monza lap 1 was probably one of the more recent examples of that happening, Tim. So now let's see what he's got into the latter portion of, well, you know, not even the latter really. We're not even out the first half yet. He's got a bit of time to claw the places back, but he's got a lot of company here behind him as Darracott goes down the inside on Saibal there. Fantastic work from Darracott. I think Saibal had been struggling a little bit, and I guess we'll have...
But he's got Edisford right behind him. He's in that Audi, that Union Jack inspired Audi, and they're going to come down to Cedar del Largo, and I think, yeah, there we go. Edisford just backing out, but look at Saibal had to outbraked himself there, and took the James Armstrong line around the corner there, but he wasn't able to make it work for him like what James did, and I think that's allowed Edisford through.
I don't know if you can see it on your sim, Tim, but it looks to me like the front left corner of Cybel's car is a bit crumpled at the moment. That's with the contact that he got after Daryl Norkett. So we'll maybe we'll be able to have a look at that in a
Yeah,
minute.
we'll
but I'm
keep
sure
an eye
on
on
the
that
angles
one.
we were just seeing a minute ago, it looked pretty rough. Look, here we go now. If you just pay attention to that, I'll definitely on mine. It looks a
Yeah,
bit crumpled. So
there's
that's
a
probably
few
where he's
marks in
losing
there.
the pace at the minute, isn't he?
Yeah, the aero for the first, well, if you take sort of the last quarter and the first quarter of the lap, is so important. And Gary Bacon, he started near the back of the grid. He's up one position, up to 13th overall. So he chases down Stephen Masters in that Lamborghini ahead of him, but he's also got Damien G ahead of that in the orange Ferrari, and they come hard down into the brakes, and that's Damien G running wide there, but that's going to allow Stephen Masters with the opportunity to get through, but he's got the work to do, Nick. He's got to take it round the outside. He's going to take it the long way round, but there we go. But that's going to allow Bacon to come through. He's given the opportunity, and here comes Gary Bacon.
Oh
Got
no!
contact!
Contact for Bacon.
Oh no! Stephen Masters just getting, and Bacon just getting caught up with one another there as they were banging doors, entering turn 8 there, and Gary Bacon so unlucky to come out worse, but Stephen Masters, I don't know whether he's carrying any damage to that front of the Lamborghini. I think he's managed to get away with that one, Nick, and so lucky there. We've got a replay here. Obviously, you can see Gary Bacon in the background there in that Vera Moretti white and red Ferrari, and it just again, I think one of those racing incidents, Nick, where they were both obviously looking towards the apex of the corner and maybe a little bit spatially unaware.
Yeah, I think he'd left room, or just about enough room. It's just hard. Sometimes visibility is difficult, isn't it? Peripheral vision's challenging sometimes in the sim. So, just one of those things that unfortunately happens. Stephen Masters, though, surviving the incident out of the two drivers there. Now, Hitchin getting pretty close to the back of Gravely. Look at the gap now. Only 2/10 between these guys. It's been pretty dicey, hasn't it, up until now? So. The gap had been a lot further away, and now almost as if Gravely's slowed down quite a bit. Is Hitchin really closing that gap in now? Right up to in this technical section, Hitchin just seems to be so much stronger than Gravely.
But this is where we could see the BMW pull clear now. The grunts of the V8 in that BMW. It's a really torquey engine, and this is what could give him the
I think it's going to be
advantage.
enough.
Come round Junkel, but Hitchin, he's tucked up right behind him.
Hitchin arrived.
He's lining them up for a move down into the center S's. This is going to be really interesting. Gravely's going to take the inside. He's going to cover that up. Hitchin going to have all the work to do. Surprised he's not tucked up a bit more, but he's heading across to take the normal, natural racing line. Gravely gone extremely defensive there on the inside,
Hitchin
and that's just allowed Hitchin
swoops,
to just like say that, Nick, just swoop in and take the move and take the first position overall and first in class.
Brilliant job from Hitchin there. I'm sure there'll be Chris in the comments there. Chris says, "Yeah, Alberto's tires are probably dead." Well, it kind of looked like that, didn't it? Really,
Yeah.
because John was just able to close that gap up over the last few laps. We didn't really cover him very much, but he got straight through there. That was very easy for John. Yeah, we should go over to the replay of James again, maybe getting hit by Nick Print in the Senna S's, because we've got somebody asking for it in the comments. It's Tom asking for it. So congratulations to Tom Carroll, by the way, on the arrival of his baby recently.
Yes, Ezra. Mum and baby doing well, apparently, which is great to hear, and always great to celebrate a nice bit of news within the community. And we've got the battle here between over 4th place between Charlie Bebb and his BMW and Shadbolt's Audi there. And I think could we see potentially another BMW move of Bebb going defensive like what Gravely did. Hopefully he wouldn't have been able to see it, but hopefully he doesn't go quite as defensive as what Gravely did. And I think Shadbolt just seems to be lacking a little bit behind. Bebb's going to take the wider line. He hasn't gone extremely defensive, and
I don't think he needs to. Shadbolt's not even looking around at the minute. I think Gravely was under such threat from Hitchin in that last portion of the lap that Hitchin was able to just, you know, he might as well have reached out of the window and hung on to the spoiler of Gravely's car at that point, because he was glued to the back. And then as Gravely took that inside line, I just think he was just too much slower on the entry, and Hitchin just dived round. Bit different here at the moment, but Gravely is still within a second, so we might see a retaliatory move maybe later on in this race, or maybe a change under the pit stops.
But here we go. We've got Masters looking to get a move done on Damien G's Ferrari, and Masters, he's got all the work to do. But look, but Bickley right behind them, looking to join in the action here, and maybe either follow Masters through or follow G's light. So G.
This looks familiar, doesn't it?
It does a little bit. Hopefully, we don't see another coming together from the drivers, but. I think Masters seems to have lost a little bit of time from his attack there, and not even making any lunge, but it's allowed Bickley to really close up as he makes another lunge there in that Lamborghini. Seems to be feeling very confident on the brakes. He's the Lamborghini and a Ferrari sandwich there right now as they cars round Junção, and let's see how the aero and slipstream takes into effect. Master's going to have to, he's got all the work to do, and he's swaying left and right all over the back of Damien G's Ferrari. But here comes Stuart Bickley. He's following Damien G through. He's going to maybe look to utilise that inside line, but he's backed out of it. And he's allowing Masters to take the longer line round. But here comes Damien G. He's got the move. I think he's got the move done there, Nick.
No, look, Damien G's going to hold on the inside there. He's still there. He's hung on to it, isn't he? He's doing fantastically there, Damien G. I mean, this is going to be a repeat. This is going to be a repeat now. Again, look, you watch this into Interlagos they go, and then Damien G.
Masters running very wide there, Nick. Late on the brakes, and he's got all the work to do now as he comes up to turn 7 and 8. But I think that's allowed Stuart Bickley through. He's going to have the racing line, and he's going to shut the door there on Masters Lamborghini, and I think that's a place picked up there for Stuart Bickley in his yellow Ferrari.
That was brilliant work there from Stuart. He's really taken advantage there of the fight, and it looks like, I mean, it looks like Steve Master behind there just losing a bit of traction at the back of the car and struggling. Now Stuart's going to be trying to fight for that position with Damien G now, and Damien obviously having been very strong.
Nick,
a lot here.
Here comes Roberts and Armstrong, and Roberts, he's got the work to do. I think he's got the move done. But also, I just spotted from the timing there, Shadbolt has passed Charlie Bebb for 4th place overall. And we'll come back and take that a look. I think this is the move done by Roberts. And here we go. Here's Shadbolt in his Audi. Someone's going to
very defensive from Bebb.
Wow, how Charlie Bebb. What a save there. And I don't know, wow, that was so close to ending in complete disaster for both drivers, Nick.
I don't know if Aiden's got damage. I couldn't quite see there. Maybe we'll get another angle of him in a minute. But there was definitely a bit of contact there, wasn't there, on the inside? It looked like a bit of tyre smoke under the brake in Charlie Bebb's car. All over.
Somewhere off camera. We'll see if we can get to it. But here we resume back to the freeway battle all over. 11th place between G, Bickley, and Masters. Masters at the back of this 3-car train now, and it's just a flashback, Nick. We spoke about it before the race earlier in the broadcast, that freeway battle between Green, Lauerson, and Hitchin in the Ahmed rookie race, and I hope it doesn't end up the same way in which that did. As they've got a great battle. Here's Charlie Bebb getting past Aiden Shadbolt again. That's into turn 7 and then 8, and nice relatively move, and a lot more done a lot more safely compared to that. Compared to the as they came down into the centre rest. But Nick, I don't know about you, I'm having a good close look, and I can't see any damage on those cars as we see Shadbolt on the flashing of the lights there.
No, it looked okay to me. And Shadbolt, he's just dropped a couple of places actually, though, Tim. I think.
Yes, he's dropped another one. I've just spotted from the timing tower, and it's this repeat. Oh, Bebb's running incredibly defensive, and Shadbolt's nudged him out the way. Oh,
so I think under braking, there's been a bit of contact there. Charlie was already a little bit out of shape from the contact, and then under braking, he's then hit the back of Shad Boltby. We'll try and get a view of that, maybe a different angle, and we'll see maybe what went down
Nick,
there.
it's gonna shape up the champ. Well, it's not too bad because James Armstrong currently down in 6th place, obviously due to the lower running.
Here we go again.
Number of cars. Here we go. We'll just talk about the championship in a minute.
So look, Charlie
moved out and tapped him slightly there, and
yeah,
Beb just trying to correct the car and trying to control it. It looks like he's then tapped back again into Shadbolt.
You know, if you get tapped like that and your wheel kicks and you're trying to get it back under control, then, you know, it's not uncommon for something like that to happen under braking. Now, Stewart here has gotten past Steve Masters and Damien G now. So Damien G's dropped back a little bit. What happened to Damien G? Has he gone off the track? I think he might have gone a bit wide there in the air. Picked up some grass.
Very wide there. And that was so close. Wow, Masters having to take evasive action there and throw out the anchor and to avoid contact. And wow, that then allowed him the momentum then to be able to get the move done. I'd assume into Rita del Posta. Sorry, Cida del Lago.
Right, we're now with Alberto Gravely, so our second place runner at the moment. He's chasing down Jonathan Hitchin. I think we probably need to see if we can get the gaps on the timing tower maybe in a minute for the viewers on Twitch. See if people are just asking around, what's the gap to Alberto at the moment between Hitchin and I can tell you it's 1 second, so not quite. Oh, well, 0.8 of a second now, actually. So he has closed in a little bit in this more technical section of the track as they come towards the end of the lap through Pico de Pato now. Tim, do you think that Gravely has got it in him to close that second gap down and take the place back from Jonathan Hitchin?
I wouldn't put it past him, Nick. We've seen from Gravely all season long his ability to race. We saw it in season 1 as well, as we just look at Dom Roberts chasing down Charlie Bebb hard now. Roberts, he's coming back obviously from that earlier incident with Armstrong, and here we go. There's the BMW in front of him. He's got him locked in. He's in his sights for that BMW round about 4/10 clear, but the gap is tumbling ever so slightly. But I think Roberts maybe a bit too far behind to get a move done down into center Estes. But he's not. He's showing that car on the inside to make Charlie Bebb start looking in his mirrors and trying to distract him into making a mistake, Nick.
I think given the fact that Charlie Bebb has now seen contact twice in that corner, he'll probably be thinking to himself, I might just have to let Dom get it done and dusted so I don't have to go
Dom
through
Roberts,
that.
Nick. Here he comes into Cida del Lago, and no, not again. Charlie Bebb having another bit of a love tap there, nowhere near as much as the
Gives
contact
him
he
a
had
flash
with
to let him know what he thinks.
Shadbolt. Yeah, I think there's going to be a few choice words said after the race, and I'm sure there are currently being said inside the cockpit of that BMW. But Roberts is through. Up to 4th overall, and I believe that Norkit's had an incident somewhere off camera. We'll see if we can come to that. And here we go down to Center S's. Has he got on the power a little bit too early, maybe, Nick? No, not to the first
exit. Yeah, he might have done actually. Possibly just clicked a bit of that curb, unsettled it, and then it's just turned around on him. It's a shame for Daryl because he was running quite high up the order earlier in this race, and then obviously that earlier accident that he'd had, plus this one now is just taking time out of his race, and it's not going to be the most comfortable position to be in for Daryl after being strong in a couple of the rounds that we've had so far. Now, that incident a minute ago with Charlie Bebb as they came down into Cida del Lago, I think it just seems to be that as soon as that BMW takes even the tiniest tap, it just wants to twitch all over the place, doesn't it? And Charlie's just suffered from that for, almost 3 laps in a row now, with people trying to get past him and attack him.
But yeah, it does. It's like you say, it does seem to twitch quite a bit and make it really unstable. And talking of twitch, a few of the guys saying in there, where I'm just trying to find, there we go, Chris Hitchens said, there's going to be a brawl, let alone choice words. I think you're not wrong there. And 306 Rally saying, they need to drop the friendly out of the commentary, so the community tag. Well, I think it's just all in racing. And talking of
it is friendly. That's why we call it a love tap.
It was. I think we call that a love tap. Definitely in comparison to the Shadbolt incident. Shadbolt has now since retired the car, unfortunately. But luckily, due to Armstrong being lower down the field and limited runs in the pro category. It shouldn't affect the championship currently too much. And yeah, just talking obviously context. Obviously, we had the a clash of community events against the German team on Friday night. An absolutely great event. We ran GT3s and F3s, and what we thought was initially going to be, the Germans fielded a really strong lineup. So with some well-known names within the GT3 and F3 communities, but I've got to say to our drivers, absolutely stunning performance. Especially, I've got to mention to James Armstrong as well, who had never driven the F3 before in his life. Literally brought it about half an hour before the race and put in an absolutely stunning performance, seeing it for a car that he'd never even driven before.
I think, Tim, it might be pit stop time soon, and I wonder if James Armstrong will be one of those first ones in, because at the moment he seems to be kind of a bit in no man's land a little bit. He's not really gaining any time on anybody. He's down a few places at the moment. We're not really. I mean, Dave Lawson in the chat was asking, is James's car dead? I mean, he's lapping similar to the top guys, but he's just not really making much progress through the field at the minute, and that might just be a real display of how fast all these guys are tonight, really. I mean, he's catching Charlie Bebb a little bit here, but Charlie, obviously, we've seen him in the wars with love taps, or I don't know what you call it, friendship strokes, maybe. I don't know what else you call them.
I'm not sure about that comment, mate. That just sounds a little bit non
too personal.
Stronger than PG, that one, I think, mate. And I'm not on about the T brand either. But like you're saying, I mean, I was just looking at the last lap times. So the last time around, the lap times completed by the drivers from positions 1st to 6th, they were covered by around about 3/10. John Hitchin just going a little bit quicker there, and likewise with Dom Roberts with both 133.3 laps. But there's literally hardly anything to separate our top 6, and like you said, they've almost neutralised themselves a little bit with only odd occasional attempts being taken here and there.
Now, I'm wondering how soon it's going to be before Don Roberts catches up to Nick Print, because look at Nick Print at the moment. He's kind of lapping around in the 131s, and they've got Don Roberts with 131s also. But on the last lap, he was about 2/10 quicker, but his overall fastest is a tenth quicker. So if Don Roberts has got consistency by the end of the race, we could see him, climbing up onto the podium. And I think that the chat wants to see that at the moment, judging from some of the comments that we're seeing. Tom Carroll, strong showing from Dom, potential overall podium. And I think they're absolutely right, especially if there's something that goes wrong under the pit stops, Tim. I mean, we must be getting towards the point. We're a little bit later, actually. We're not seeing anybody blink first.
No.
So as the 15-minute remaining marker comes up, and these guys have done about 18 and a half laps now, coming into 19 laps, they must be getting towards fumes now.
I think it's going to be a case of who blinks first, like you say, Nick. And there we go. Jonathan Hitchin, talking of blinking first. He's coming out for the lead 2 seconds ahead of Gravely when he came in. And he's the first one to go at the moment, Nick. Nobody else following him. Oh, no, sorry. Dom Roberts is in as well. Charlie Bebb, he's triggered the flurry of activity, Nick, as drivers, we've got 3 drivers coming into the pits. And I think this is where it's going to be decided for some of the drivers, really, because Seibelt's also in.
The other 2 podium sitters of Nick Print and Alberto Gravely, as it stood at the time before the pit stops, they've decided to stay out. They fancy their chances of another quick out lap, maybe before, rather than being involved in all the chaos. Or was it that they just weren't quick enough to react to the fact that John had gone in? So let's see. It might be that Alberto and Nick both decide to jump in on the next lap. But for now, we've got a slightly mixed up grid with, Jonathan Hitchin already flashing Chris Eddersford there, looking to get round. And I think Chris, at the minute, will just bide his time, just take it easy for a second. Then John will be able to make his way through in a moment. And here comes Steve Masters on Charlie Bebb on the outside here, with Charlie defending the inside. Charlie will have just been out of the pit lane, so he'll be on slightly more weight in the car now, a bit of extra fuel, and these guys weren't really racing earlier on, were they? They were further apart in the race. Here's
Yeah,
Gravely.
I think it's good. It's going to be interesting, Nick. Obviously, Hitchin not coming well, and also Beb not coming out in exactly the ideally in trap position as Beb heads to the pits and Print follows him in. It'll be interesting to see whether Armstrong follows in as well. But yeah, Hitchin and Beb both coming out in a little bit of traffic, which obviously will hamper their outlap a little bit. We ride on board with James Armstrong as he heads to the pit lane. Great camera angle here as we see him slam on the brakes and enter into the pit lane and hit the speed limiter. As we come back to Hitchin as Darracott dives to the pit, so that's not going to hold him up at all. And let's see, I think Gravely still stopped. He's only just leaving his pit box, Nick. So I think this is going to be Hitchin ahead. I think he's wow, he's well ahead there, Nick.
Absolutely cleared them there. Look at that. I mean, Alberto Gravely is 2.5 behind at least. So as he comes out the pit lane there, and Nick Print is chasing really hard. So Alberto Gravely's biggest problem now is Nick Print behind him, and Chris Edisford is probably going to have to get out of the way of those guys eventually when they begin to get up. I mean, at the moment, Chris Edisford still needs to come in for his pit stop. Don Roberts down in 5th at the moment. I don't know what we're going to see him do. Is he going to come in for a pit stop now?
Well,
I think he's already been, hasn't
he? Yeah, he's already been in. It's only Chris Edisford is the only driver yet to take a pit stop, which he was bringing the Audi on, literally on fumes, Nick. And that's why he's currently up in the dizzy heights of 2nd overall, currently 1st in class. But he's looking to run that car as light, for as long as possible and try and pick up some quick lap times. But Nick Print currently all over the back of Alberto Gravely. BMW versus BMW. But Print, if you can get the run out of Juncal, Nick, I think we could see a move potentially done into Senna S's. And that gap, it looks like Gravely initially got the better drive, but here comes Print. I think maybe a little bit too far back, but it's good. That gap is visibly closing, Nick. It's really, really closing.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of this, though, haven't we? So far, we always knew that the S's were going to be the place where we saw a lot of the manoeuvres happen, and Nick Print just kind of taking his time there. He's not going to be looking to have another bit of contact like he did with James Armstrong into the S's when he was under pressure from Dom Roberts earlier in this race. Dom Roberts a few seconds behind him at the moment, so not too much of a bother for him as now we go into Retro Aposta, and it looks like with only 2/10 between them, there could be a potential for a move here, but no, he's going to leave it as we head into Decina de Largo. They don't want to be getting too close together, these BMWs, so obviously equal machinery here. He's got 10 minutes to go, and we don't want to see incident without. Yeah, we don't need to have here yet, Tim, when there's still a few laps of racing to be had.
It's so close. And Gravely, the rear end of that BMW, really, really twitchy, Nick. As Print's absolutely all over the gearbox of him, and you can see Hitchin just ahead of him. And that gap currently 2.5 seconds, but Hitchin's going to be looking in his mirrors and watching these two absolutely all over each other. And I think Print, he's more in the driving seat as he goes late onto the brakes there. But Gravely really seems to be struggling under acceleration. That car seems incredibly twitchy, especially coming out of some of those slow to medium speed corners. And of course, we run autumn setups in this league, and maybe that's what's just the slight difference.
Now, this is the moment.
I think this is the moment, like you say, Nick. It's a head down to Senna S's. Print in that black BMW has gone wide. He's going to be on the inside for the second corner of Senna S's, but that's the move done. Nice and clean there. And let's take a little bit look down the field. Armstrong is close behind Charlie Bebb.
Not going to see a similar move right now, but this is for 5th position at the moment, Tim. So Charlie Bebb defending for his life against James Armstrong, who we know is quick here. And it's very rare that we get to see these guys fighting, because James is normally dancing off to the front while Charlie kind of is normally a little bit further back in the pack. But obviously James, with that incident he's had already, he's been a little bit on the back foot today. Great to see the move done from Print there on Gravely a moment ago. And look, there's James going up the inside there. He's got it done. But Charlie now on the defence here. Is he going to be able to hold it? He is, but James might just have a better run on the exit here. He's got loads of track teams up here, and he's just not quite been able to dial it through, has he? But he's got a better line here, I think, for the exit. He's going to have a nice long straight run. Look at the gap closing down there, Tim.
He's definitely all over the back of that BMW, and he's gone for a lunge. He's going to take it round the outside, but that's a really not an easy place to get a move done. I think he'd be better off just yeah.
Oh no!
Armstrong, he's lost it. Such a you hardly ever see a mistake from Armstrong. Such a rare mistake. Normally, such a strong driver under pressure. But so we just head back to Gravely and Print. But Gravely, Print, since he's got the move done on Gravely, he hasn't been able to pull away from him. Probably like we expected him to, as he was absolutely all over the back of the way Print was all over the back of Gravely, and he's got Jonathan Hitchin about 2.8 seconds up the road, and seems though these two are battling. He doesn't seem to be pulling away too much, Nick.
I think big twitch there from Nick Print as he's trying really hard to get away from Gravely. Obviously, we had a bit of a slipstream before. We'll go back to a replay of Armstrong, and we'll just go back and see that mistake as it happened. So he was really chasing hard behind Charlie Baby. He set himself up for a really great run, and then it just was a bit too much on the back end of that Lambo. And he was in the chat earlier complaining about how the Lambo wasn't fit for service here. So maybe that just showing there.
I think Lamborghini just doing Lamborghini things there with swapping, and I think based on what we're seeing tonight, the car to have is either the Ferrari or the BMW, with strong outings from both cars. They've got two cars in for each manufacturer in the top four, and the top five. There's 3 BMWs and 2 Ferraris. But yeah, that we can see Jonathan. He's not too far away in the distance from these two. As Gravely there, just showing the front end from Print, and I'm quite surprised that Print hasn't managed to pull away, Nick. I know I touched on it about a lap ago, but Gravely seems to be catching him.
Well, we saw a minute ago, I think, as we were following Print round the lap as he was defending. I think it was the exit of Interlagos as they headed up in towards the more technical section as we head into 6, 7, and 8. It looked like Print's car was really sort of twitching around a little bit. I mean, maybe we might see it again maybe in a few minutes. Yeah, it's a bit smoother that time around on the lap throughs 4 and 5. And as we head up to Ferradura in turn 6, he's also got it under control, with Gravely only 0.3, nearly 4 behind. I don't think that Print is going to be catching Mr. Hitchin anytime soon unless there's an error at the front.
Yeah, I don't think it is, but then just the gap slightly extending out to 3.5 seconds now. Around about 2 laps ago, it was down to it was about 3 seconds. So Hitchin is ever slightly able to get away, but just look at the timing tower. Look who's looming behind, and that gap is ever so slightly tumbling. It's Dom Roberts, and I think we've got about 6 minutes to go. It's going to be a tall order. He's going to need to catch them at the rate of about a second per minute, which is a really tough scene. It's a 1.5 lap around here, so he needs to gain it around about somewhere in the region of about 2 seconds per lap.
Unless these podium runners come into contact.
Well, we've seen it already earlier in the race, Nick. I wouldn't put anything past it. The race isn't over until that checkered flag flies. And with 6 minutes to go, I can't believe it's only that. Just having a little look down the timing order. We've got Damien G and Darryl Norkett down in 12th and 13th place there. Their next closest battle on track, around about 0.6 of a second separating those two. But here they are currently. So both of them on a little bit of recovery drives, obviously after the earlier incident, early incidents that they've been involved in. This battle currently for 6th in class and 12th overall.
Yeah.
So it's both the strong cars around this track. Obviously, Damien G and that Ferrari, orange Ferrari, and Norkett
going to be good for a move.
He started the pits.
Has he run out of fuel?
He took incredibly early. He took that incredibly early stop, didn't he, Nick? After taking the damage, where I think it was about 10 minutes gone, wasn't it? That he took the stop, so he's having to make a splash and dash to get him through to the end of the race. But I think Armstrong, somewhere off camera, has gone. I think he's just ran a little bit wide. Here we go.
He was chasing again. Look.
He is. He is all over the back of. That's the first one, I think, there, Nick. Yeah, that's the
same one we saw before. I think
that's the same one. Unless he's I reckon that's different, Nick, because he took to the grass last time. I'm not 100% sure whether that is.
So you're
but...
telling me that he's done the same thing twice in a row?
Well, we've had a bit of sense of deja vu all season long, haven't we, Nick? So it wouldn't be surprising to see almost a replica mover. Like you said, James was
Maybe,
complaining about stability before the race, and it wouldn't be surprising at all, as this
4
gap,
minutes to go.
Gravely just doesn't seem to quite have an answer, really. That gain gap has been pretty stable between around about 4/10 and 5/10 of a second between these two cars, all for the last few laps.
You say Gravely's not really got an answer, but neither's Nick. Because he's not managing to pull away at this point. He was strong enough to get the manoeuvre done, obviously into the center S's. Gravely just needs to have a really clean run. He needs to pick his line for a long, fast exit out of the penultimate kind of set of corners as they run up the hill into that straight. And the closer he is through that section, the more chance he's going to have of getting round Nick Print on the inside or the outside. Your choice, Mr. Gravely, into turn 1 and the S's. So here we go now. Let's see if he can bring that gap a little bit closer down. It looks a bit too far away for my liking for a move. So I think they're also pulling away from Roberts a little bit now at the moment. So perhaps taking their time a little bit, and maybe the move will come in the last couple of minutes.
So Gravely's car, Nick, it seems to be a lot stronger as he really closes the gap there as they head down to turn 1. And he seems to be, that Gravely's setup seems to favour the straights in comparison to Prince, who his setup seems to favour the more sort of technical sectors from about turn 6 all the way up to turn 13, which is Jung Cow.
So perhaps just a difference in the wing they're running, maybe something like along those lines, but where Gravely was gaining that time, it wasn't really enough for him though to be able to be in a position to have that little dive into turn 1 and show Nick a bit of broadside.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Just I think the chat. So yeah, Chris Hitcher just picking up in the chat there that I think Nick said he was running more wing compared to Alberto. But it's interesting, despite these two drivers running different setups and obviously different wing levels, that they're able to it's quite neutralised where the cars, it's exactly the same car, so it's not as if it's two different manufacturers fighting over position, and it's neither, like you were saying, it's slightly, one car's quicker in another part of the track to the other one, and it seems to almost neutralise itself. And another gap I'm just keeping one close eye on is the battle for 7th is Chris Edisford. He just seems to be yo-yoing back and forth with his Audi onto Theracot's Mercedes. Gap ranging anywhere between 8/10 and 11/10 of a second. And again, I think it's in part probably due to the two different manufacturers as well. Theracot's obviously a Mercedes and Edisford Audi. So I think there we go. So that's where Darracot's able to pull a little bit away on the straight, but we've got 1 minute to go, Nick. I think the drivers have 2 more laps left. Hitchin, he's out in the clear, 3.8 seconds up the road. We see him just in camera there, and I think now it's going to be the time's going to be soon. I'm not sure. Might even have 3 laps left to go potentially. I'm not sure if Hitchin will take the white flag this time around, but it's going to be close. So, but again, Gravely, that gap seems to be closer this time around than what it was last time around, Nick.
It's really important that he gets the run in the last section, isn't it? So you want to take the line that gives you the fastest possible run as they head up the hill, because it's a long straight. So I think the guys that have been successful in pulling that center S's maneuver have been the ones that have been really glued to the back, and I think he might just have it this time, looking at that gap that we just had there.
Off in the distance there. It's down to 3 attempts. Here it comes.
Still looks a bit far for me there. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Let's see. Let's keep an eye on it.
Well, it looks like Print got a brilliant exit, but here we go. We've got the white flag, so this is it. We're on to our final lap now, Nick. You see the steward there just waving the white flag over the start-finish line, so this is it now. They've got to put all their cars on the table. It's all or nothing now, surely, for Gravely, and if he's going to get a move done on Print.
I think the Retro Post is not going to be the place that it happens. It's just too far. But going off the track, I think may have just been if
Nick.
Sean's pulling my leg, but I think it might have been James Armstrong possibly.
No, Dom Roberts somewhere off.
Dom
He's had an
Roberts.
incident somewhere off camera. It's just taking too much curb. Ooh, nearly. He's really cutting the corners there. He's
The
caught it on the
grass, yeah,
grass.
just too much grass and
Oh,
it
just
sent him
caught
away.
him out. And now he's got Charlie Bebb only 2 seconds behind him. But this battle for second place on the podium, it's getting close. But I'm not sure whether Gravely's going to have an answer for Print. I mean, he just seems to be closer than what he has been. I think this is going to be a sprint to the line.
He's been, yeah. I think that looked really tight there as they just headed through the last section here. But I don't
seems
think
to come alive
he's going to be
now.
able to do it, is he?
No, Prince seems to come alive on this little run to Junkau, and like saying that this is as close as it's been. And here we go, the gap's closing already. This is going to be a race to the line. There's Jonathan Hitchin well ahead. He's going to take the checker flag. Let's watch that. There's Norkit just heading to the pits there, but that's it. Yep, Prince been able to hold on to that lead. It was down to 2 attempts at the line. So your top 3 is Hitchin, Nick Prince in second in his BMW, followed by another BMW Earth, Alberto Gravely, as we just now wait for Dom Roberts to come across the line. There he is. He has crossed the line, take 4th overall and first in class. That's a win for in the Pro-Am class. Charlie Bebb, 5th. James Armstrong, 6th, after a bit of a recovery drive for him, obviously after earlier incidents. Looks like Tim Darracott will pick up 7th place overall, and that's 6th place, I think, yep, within category. Edisford on the podium within category, 2nd place and 8th overall. Cy Bell joining him. I know Chris Edisford's been really, really chuffed. I know he's had a bit of a tough season as Chris Edisford, so they'll be really happy to get that Audi.
Great to see him there in P2 in class, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be really happy to get that Audi onto the 2nd step of the podium. Then we go, we've got Damien G, and I think Norkit will be, he last crossed the line, obviously, as we saw him just take that splash and dash as he heads out of the pit lane now. So, whereas these drivers are on their slowdown, he's got pretty much wait a whole lap now for Norkit to make a full trip around the circuit before we can bring up the official standings. But as we just watched Norkit, Nick, just to sort of round up on what's been yet again, GT3's in iRacing UK not failing to deliver on action.
Absolutely, and I think we've seen such a variation, haven't we, throughout the season? You know, we've seen highs and lows. We've seen some of our top runners have, really fundamental incidents in some races, which has given other guys in the pack a chance to slide through and take advantage of hauling in a few more points. Tonight, we've seen the likes of Armstrong, who's normally such a strong runner, and he was a strong runner at the start of this race, and it's just dropped away from him over the course. He was complaining about the Lambo not being up to spec, in the chat earlier, and it's proven really throughout this race to be very much that. So he will be, I guess, a little bit disappointed with less points in tonight's race. But like I said, we've seen some great performances across the board. I mean, look at Rob Armstrong. Sorry, not Rob Armstrong. Dom Roberts. Mixed up with people.
Yeah, you got the Rob part right, mate.
P4 overall. Brilliant job from him. Without incidents, he could have been at the top of the field tonight if he'd just kept plugging away. But unfortunately, his pace just wasn't enough really in the end to bring himself into contention for a podium place. As we see now the final standing. So the pros, you've got Jonathan Hitchin in P1. He's followed by Nick Print. Then we've got Alberto Gravely, Charlie Bebb, James Armstrong, Tim Darracott, and Aidan Shadbolt, who was out of the race. And then coming up in the Pro-Ams, you've got the Dom Roberts, the Dominator Roberts at the top of the table there, followed by Chris Edisford. Great to see him in P2. It looked like he was going to come out into P2 after that pit stop that he'd gone in for, and he did. He managed to keep it ahead of Cybel, who had a bit of damage, I think, from earlier in the race where he'd come into contact with Darren Norkit. And then you've got Stuart Bickley in 4th, followed by Steve Masters in 5th, Damien G, Daryl Norkit, and Gary Bacon, who was out of that race. Championship standings on your screen now. So I believe that is correct, but we've got Jonathan Hitchin, followed by Aidan Shadbolt and James Armstrong. Then you've got Alberto Gravely, Nick Print, Charlie Bebb, Tim Darracott, Piers Berry, Ben Cullen, Michael Hornby, Paul Busby, Mike Ellis, Andrew Cave, and then Cameron Brown. That's the pro standings for you at the moment. We're going to go over to the pro-am listings now, and there's Don Roberts absolutely flying. He is technically, he's now your champion for pro-am. So a big congratulations to Don Roberts, not only for obviously his race this evening, but his championship win there as the pro-am champion. He can't be beaten now. It's 40 points for a win, and even Mr. Norkett won't be able to do that. So Mr. Norkett in P2, followed by Steve Masters and Cy Bell in fourth. You've got Stuart Bickley, Gary Bacon, Chris Edisford in seventh, Matt Camilio, Damien G, Bradley Holst, Dan Saddington, Aaron Gearing, Christopher V. Wells, just a catch pole, Chris Foskett, and then John McLaughlin. A couple of names that you obviously won't be seeing there tonight. Obviously, some people weren't able to partake in Interlagos this evening, but nonetheless, a great race from the guys and some fantastic action across this evening. Tim, it's been a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I'm glad to have shared the excitement with you. Only one more round to go now.
We have, Nick, and what a season it has been so far. You know, we've had so many highs, so many lows. It's been action-packed and drama-filled. Obviously, we've got a week off next week, but in 2 weeks' time, we take to the Nürburgring in Germany, where we will have all four categories racing at the same time. So I know, Nick, we'll definitely have our work cut out in trying to keep the viewers at home up to date with all the action that will be going on then. And just to, obviously to mention, obviously previously that we mentioned, however, we're taking on still obviously drivers for our Porsche Cup League, which starts on I think that's the 6th of June from memory, and also GT3 Season 3. The enrollment for that closes also on the 6th of June. So if you're interested in either of those, as we mentioned earlier, head across to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/iRacing UK, or alternatively, you can find us on Twitter or Instagram on team_IRUK, or for yet another way, you can find us on the iRacing forums. If you look under the UK and Ireland section and then look for IRUK, you'll be able to find us within there. So, just say thank you, obviously, to all of our drivers tonight. Putting on a great spectacle yet again. Big thank you to our viewers and new subscribers, and also people who followed the channel as well. Big thank you, obviously, to iRacing, the world's premier motorsport simulation, who give us this platform, and obviously TrackCams22.com, who give us the camera angles to view the great racing on iRacing. If you want to catch up on any of our previous broadcasts, then you can do so either here on Twitch or also on the iRacing UK YouTube channel, where there's a whole raft of content on there between GT3s, F3s, Skip Barber, which we've seen, obviously, where we covered that early in the season, Nick. Some absolutely stunning racing, wheel to wheel and action packed from start to finish. And finally, of course, a big thank you to producer Sean, obviously in the background, working his magic and pulling this all together to give us this great platform. And it just leaves us to say, thank you and good night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you and good night.